To everybody assisting today's webinar, Boosting Sales Productivity Through Sales Enablement. We appreciate you attending our webinar, and we are looking forward to sharing today's content with you. Just before we get started, as we usually do, we want to remind you that the material that we are sharing with you today is already available in the GoToWebinar control panel. So if you access the GoToWebinar control panel, there is a section that says Handouts. And in that section, you will find a PDF document titled Webinar Sales Enablement English. So please feel free to download that information and share with your colleagues or other people that you feel may benefit from its content. In addition, please remember that any questions can be asked directly through the application. All you have to do is go through the questions section in the GoToWebinar control panel and enter your questions there. We will be answering questions as we go along unless we feel that they're best slated for the end when general questions come in. But if they are relevant to the specific topic that we are covering, we are more than likely answering your question on the spot. So having said that, we thank you again for joining us. I see a couple of people just joined after I started, so welcome to you guys, and we will get right on with it. One of the things that we have seen is that a lot of companies have started to create official sales enablement organizations. And although the functions of sales enablements have traditionally been distributed between human resources, training, and sales leaders, we found that much more effectiveness and productivity can be garnered if managed as an individual unit or as a specialized unit within an existing sales organization. So as a result of this increase in the region, we felt that it would be pertinent to share with you guys what we're seeing, what we're finding, and how sales enablement can truly help you boost sales productivity. So having said that, I'm going to go right into material here. And you'll find that technology continues to drive major industry disruptions. We're seeing this with the hospitality industry with companies like Airbnb. We're seeing this in the transportation industry with Uber. We're seeing that in the mass consumer goods industry with Amazon. And we continue to see how technology is, ever more disrupting the way that industries work. So our sales organizations have to be able to catch up with these disruptions and not be left behind. So what we found is that a lot of our customers have acquired tools like CRM and marketing automation so that they can, be in the leading edge. They want to be able to track their sales process. They want to be able to monitor the customer experience throughout sales, marketing, and customer service. And now they've started to deploy marketing automation to be proactive in the way that they are generating leads, building loyalty, and actually serving customers through social media. So today, what we want to say is all of this is great, but in reality, it's sales enablement that really makes it all work. Because at the end of the day, it's you enabling your sales organization with these tools and many other tools that we're going to be talking about that are going to be delivering the ecosystem that they'll require to be successful in an ever-changing world, with an ever-changing consumer, an ever-changing customer that is more informed, that has more access to information than they've ever had, and that can really do quite a lot of research at their fingertips with simply using, desktop research tools like Google and Bing and all these other things. So while organizations are building out these sales team and chasing more aggressive sales goals, they're not necessarily scaling their processes, their best practices, their training programs, their onboarding programs, and their sales tools effectively. And what this has caused, as you can imagine, is a lack of focus. And this lack of focus is generating what we call a widespread decline in sales productivity. Why? Because salespeople are bombarded with more and more and more information, but it's happening in an unstructured way. It's happening without the right tools. And at the end of the day, what this is all creating is confusion. So with this confusion out there, with a customer that's more impatient than ever, and with a sales rep that is under more pressure than they've ever been, this is really not helping the productivity. So this is why we feel that sales enablement can truly play an important role in doing this. And we summarize it in this statement. We say sales enablement comes in to play comes into play to empower and retool sales management and reps to work more effectively and efficiently. So again, we feel that, you know, you can call sales enablement whatever you like, but we feel that sales enablement is really about building a platform that provides the right tools at the right time to both sales teams and sales managers. And the objective, of course, is that they become more productive. Now, to further expand on that, we're going to give you some of the definitions that are commonly found, you know, throughout, you know, these key organizations that focus on building material and content for these type of issues. So, for example, Forbes considers that sales productivity is a challenge for almost every B2B organization, and therefore the pressure to meet or surpass revenue goals is only increasing. With over half of sales teams expected to meet revenue goals that are at least 20% higher than the previous year. And what this is doing is substantiating my previous statement that your sales organizations are under more pressure than they've ever been before. And think about this. We're saying that more than 50% of corporations and businesses out there are expecting to grow by at least 20%. That is humongous. You know, we're no longer happy with saying, oh, double digits. So if we did 10, 11, 12, we were happy. No, now we're looking for 20% increases in our sales numbers. So again, that pressure all goes down to the sales team. And when you combine this pressure with the overpouring of information, you can see why this is creating a great deal of confusion. So let's further define sales enablement. CSO Insights define sales enablement as a strategic cross-functional discipline designed to increase sales results and productivity by providing integrated content, training, and coaching to salespeople and sales management throughout the entire customer's buying journey. And of course, they feel that this is powered by technology. And we're not going to argue with that. We know that technology is going to play a big part because nobody is able to memorize all the information that is coming out, especially at the speed that it is coming out nowadays. If we look at the Pedowitz group, they define it as the activity of aligning marketing processes and goals and then arming sales with tools to improve sales execution and drive revenue. So again, it's about this orchestrated effort between sales and marketing so that they have the right tools to do their jobs more effectively and therefore increase their revenues. And if we look at IDC research, they define it as getting the right information into the hands of the right sellers at the right time and place and in the right format to move a sales opportunity forward. So I think the bottom line is everybody agrees that sales enablement is required to retool and provide our sales teams with the collateral, with the content, with the training, with the coaching and the guidance that they're going to need to be successful. So let's narrow that down now into specific objectives. So now that we understand what is sales enablement, let's try to understand, you know, what does sales enablement seek to achieve, okay? And the number one objective, and this is in no particular order, but this is kind of where the process begins. It's about recruiting and hiring the best possible talent. So initiatives that are focused on ensuring that the right people are on the bus at the right time are considered to be within the scope of sales enablement. In addition, sales enablement involves keeping all of the seats on the bus filled so that the sales organization is operating at full capacity. So what we're saying is we need to get the right people at the right time for the right job. And that's clearly the goal, to make sure that we have the right people for the right jobs at the right time. Therefore, ensuring that our organization is always operating at full capacity. So that's, you know, at the core of this process, and it all starts with recruiting and hiring the best possible talent. The second objective that we have is really to understand that the right salespeople, once onboarded, are still going to need support and guidance to get better every day. So that effort that we place on improving our people's skills and their knowledge and the ability for them to be more consistent in the way they execute their key activities is clearly within the scope of sales enablement. Sales enablement ensures the business is delivering the right training, okay, meaning the content in which we are training people. It's not just product. It could be policy, it could be procedures or processes, it could be sales methodologies, It could be offers. It could be, new product upgrades. I mean, it could be any kind of content, okay? And that we provide the learning tools that are required so that training is not a one-off, but more of a continuous process, and that we provide the coaching that they need to get better and the performance improvement programs that we need to put in place to ensure that everybody is performing at a high level. And if they're not, that we actually have concrete plans outlined for them so that they can get to the levels that we're expecting them to get. And the goal here is very simple: continuously improve our sellers' ability to sell. Okay? How do we make sure that these guys and these gals have the information that they need at the time they need it to be able to sell more effectively? Now, if you are in an industry like we are, which is technology, you can imagine that, what's current today is obsolete already tomorrow. So imagine, the flow of information that is being sent out. And imagine if all of a sudden this content is not curated, this content is not organized, and this content is not prioritized. What do you think really happens? What really happens is that the salespeople discard it. They just don't read it. It's just too much. They can't keep up. So that's why sales enablement clearly has an objective here, which is to make sure that this information is presented in the right format, at the right time, that is designed for training, that the content drives the learning process, that it matches the right tools for continuity in that learning process, and that coaching is in place to make sure that performance is at its best level. So training and coaching are absolutely within the scope of a sales enablement organization. The third item that I want to make sure is that we are providing the right tools. So now we're talking about whether this is CRM, which is very popular, marketing automation, which is very popular, but what about contract management? What about tools to make sure that the teams know before a contract expires, or to automate the contract creation process, or to automate the electronic signatures of these contracts, to manage the different versions of these contracts? These are important tools. What about intranet portals, where they can go in and find information for customers by industry, by size, by market, by product, by objective, by the stage in which they are in the sales process? So regardless of what this is, a good sales enablement team outfits their organization with the right set of tools to collect. So we're also capturing, not just delivering, but we're capturing information, structure, process, and report critical business information. Sales enablement also provides the content libraries, meaning the place where we go and we find the information that we need. The battle cards, if you haven't heard about battle cards, these are index cards that you use depending on the competitors that you're competing against. So if I'm competing against competitor Y, I want to know what their SWOT is so that I can position my company, my products, and my value proposition in a way that's more effective than they can, or in a way that at least differentiates us from our competitors. Any additional supporting materials, case studies, any additional applications, and with this I'm talking about technology, and tools that in general equip your sales team to be more effective, we want to make sure that you have a plan for deployment. And please don't be overwhelmed. I know it's a lot of information. It's a lot of applications and tools to soak in at once. We're not promoting that they are all implemented at once. What we're saying is you need to have a buildup of the tools and processes that your sales team needs to continuously be effective. And this is why I tell you guys, whether you are a high-tech or an old-school organization, the goal is to make sure that you're outfitting the sales team with the content, with the material, with the technology, and whatever tools are required for them to sell more effectively. So this is going to be absolutely crucial in the sales enablement process. The next responsibility that they have, or objective in this case, is to assess. There has to be a process that is designed to measure how well the sales teams and managers are performing. And this goes from day-to-day metrics, like how many visits that you make, how many prospects, did you identify? How many leads did you qualify? How many leads did you convert into opportunities? How many proposals did you submit? How many negotiation calls did you execute? So regardless of what that is, whatever you need to do to make sure that you are assessing, the key metrics, whether they are qualitative or quantitative, that you are able to do that. And again, the word of caution is you don't have to measure everything, but you have to measure those things that are going to have the greatest impact in your sales results. So that's exactly what you want to be looking at. And here the goal is to measure, analyze, and provide timely feedback with regards to both individual and collective team performance and results. And this is absolutely critical, because if I see that in general the organization is failing to execute well on a given activity, let's say negotiation as an example, then we need to make sure that we have the training and the coaching to support the content and the skills that are required to negotiate better and more effectively. But if we have individuals that are strong at negotiation but are weak in other areas, you also want to be able to develop an individual development plan that helps them reach the next level. So you need to have the tools to analyze, and you have to be able to provide timely feedback so that action is taken in real time and not when it's too late. And I don't know if you'd be surprised about this statistic, but it's really, really important. I mean, I'm sure you can relate to this. But the important thing here is that you understand that only 1/3, and I'm sorry here, but for some reason here we go. Only 1/3 of sales reps in general meet or exceed their quotas. And furthermore, only 10% do it on a consistent basis. So if research, is showing this kind of statistic, it is clear that we have a huge gap between what we are aiming to achieve and what we're actually achieving. And furthermore, there's a gap in doing it consistently. So even for those that actually achieve it, it doesn't mean they do it all the time. And this is very, very delicate, because if we're having organizations go out for goals that they're never going to achieve, we are by design demoralizing our sales force. We are by design creating a culture of failure. So we have to be very careful about that, because if our targets are not realistic, and if we are not providing our teams with the tools that they need to do their job effectively, then we are at the core of why our organizations are not delivering results. We are the problem. Okay, so this is really, really important. I remember in my days in Jamaica, something that I heard all the time was a lot of my sales teams would come and say, these are great plans, but you're giving me a basket to carry water. And it hit me, you can't really put water in a basket, right? Because it's going to spill. And that's exactly the message here. You can't give people baskets to carry water. You have to give them the right tools. In this case, you need to give them a bucket. And that's exactly what, sales enablement is designed to do. So now we're going to talk about, 7 signs, and this kind of sounds like a, cosmopolitan, 7 signs that your boyfriend is going to leave you. But this is really 7 signs that you need sales enablement. What are the 7 things that could actually indicate that sales enablement should be, a top priority for your business? And the number 1 item that I would look at is your onboarding time. Onboarding a new sales rep is intended to quickly get them up to speed. Unfortunately, and this is as we found through research, it takes about 7 months and about $30,000 to recruit and onboard a new salesperson. And the worst part about all this is that 87% of training is forgotten within weeks. And by the way, this has nothing to do with whether you hired the right person or not. Okay, because we are assuming that you are hiring the right people. And if you're not, as you saw before, that is one of the key objectives of sales enablement. Okay, but if in general, we're talking about 7 months to get people to actually get to know the processes and the products and the offers and you know, the methodologies and the best practices that your organization employs, and it costs this amount of money, you know, it's no wonder that we have to place priority here, because you know what ends up happening? We end up with these people, and because we've already spent all this money to training, we keep them even when they're not that great, because we don't want to go through the pain of going through this onboarding process again. And that clearly creates a vicious you know, circle in your organization. So the sales enablement solution is that you have the right tools so that you can decrease that ramp up time. Imagine that you can shorten that by 30–40% while increasing their productivity, so that it's not just that they know the products, and reducing the mistakes that they make. Okay, and that's what we're looking to you know, provide you a highlight on. You need to have the right tools to further empower your sales team with content that is delivered in time, so that they have the right sales guidance, that you enable them to learn about complex products and services quickly at their pace, because you can't all cram them up in a room and expect that they're going to learn this in 2 days. Okay, you need to provide this information bite-sized, a little bit at a time, so that they can absorb that information and they can actually remember it through reinforcement. Okay, because you want these guys not just to know the process, or just not to know the product, or just not to know the offer. They need to know the whole of it, and that level of knowledge needs to be deep enough that they are autonomous in closing a deal. And that does not mean that you're losing business because these guys are making mistakes or because they don't know what they should. Okay, so if your onboarding time is not good, if the results after onboarding are not good, if you're still not getting them to give you the level of productivity that you need within a reasonable amount of time, then, you know, sales enablement is something that you really need to take a careful look at. The second indicator is lack of productivity. And the Bridge Group states that sales productivity is the #1 challenge for almost 65% of B2B sales organizations. And I don't think I have to tell you that sales team productivity has a direct and highly significant impact on revenue. So what do we do about this? And it's interesting to know that less than 1/3 of a rep's time goes to core selling. That means that if you were to divide the day, you know, in 3, 66% of their time is in administrative activities, or unproductive activities, or repetitive activities. So you want to take away anything that's unproductive, anything that's repetitive, and anything that is manual, because this time is spent in non-selling activities. So what you want to do is you want to automate your processes as much as you can, so that they can employ their time on core selling activities. And when we talk about tools, we're talking about your CRM, we're talking about your marketing automation tool, we're talking about Axonify for learning, we're talking about, you know, libraries where they can access information, we're talking about video modules so they can reinforce knowledge or learn about new processes. Anything you can do to improve and automate and make the process more efficient is going to give you more selling time. We know for a fact that CRM can simplify sales processes and automate workflows, and therefore increase productivity by 32%. That's already been proven. But that's just one leg of the whole picture. Okay, so lack of productivity is a clear indicator that you need to look at sales enablement as a ways to drive that productivity. Another indicator is that you use a one-size-fits-all approach to selling. And, you know, I know that a lot of corporations spend a lot of money in, you know, neurolinguistics and influencing customers to buy and using all these, you know, tactics to close deals and all these fancy methodologies. And you know what? That's all great. But times have changed. And today's B2B sales environment requires much more than simply pitching products and influencing people. Instead, buyers expect an individualized purchase process, and they expect a solution that takes into consideration their very personal and unique needs, challenges, and priorities. So it is critical that your sales reps understand their customers and how to tailor your sales process for relevance and value. Okay, a task that it has been proven 40% of sales reps lack. Okay, or are unable to do effectively. So again, as customers get more informed and they get more information and they have a clear idea of what they want and they have websites to validate and verify what they need, why they need it, how they need it, and how much it costs, your sales teams have to be at a completely different level. They need to be able to understand that and do a right fit approach and have a value proposition strategy that makes the customer feel like, gosh, I'm so glad I found you because you are the answer to my prayers. So personalization has become a scientifically driven approach that matches content. That means the right information. Messaging. That means delivering the right information in the right format to the right people. And a sales strategy that is based on your buyer persona and the stage in which you're in the buying process. So try and understand this, okay? It's not just about saying, oh, I understand that profile type buyer, and it's not just about understanding, oh, this is my sales cycle. It's about understanding what that buyer profile is individually and personally looking for. It's matching it with the right set of products, and then feeding them the content that they need depending on where you are in the sales process so that you can affect the influence that you need to affect, which is not neuro-linguistic or tactical, but rather sensible to the customer's individual needs and rather a solution to the challenges that they have and prioritize in the way that will deliver the most impact to their business. So your sales enablement tools should be able to provide you with predictive analytics so that you can proactively recommend next steps according to each sales situation and customizing and adding value to the specific buyer experience. That means that when I know that I'm in the negotiation stage, I know exactly what content to provide based on A, where I am in the process, in this case negotiation, B, what the buyer persona profile is, C, what the individual needs of the customer are, and match that up with their industry, their customers, their priorities, and their business objectives. So it's sales enablement's job to do the mapping so that they can find that information when they need it so that they can affect the impact that they want to close the deal. So that one-size-fits-all approach to selling is not going to work. And if it's been working for you up to now, you're going to see that that's going to change really, really soon. So sales enablement has to take a look at this very, very closely. The fourth item or indicator that you need sales enablement is that you see that your opportunities are not progressing. Okay, and I think a lot of you, knowing the audience that we have on this webinar, will know that, you know, the longer an opportunity or a prospect is stuck at a particular stage in the pipeline, the less likely it is that they will advance and eventually close. It's very rare that you see a deal stay, you know, a large amount of time in one particular stage and still close. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to that. Sales reps must be able to create a compelling case for change and highlight the impact of not taking action. Okay, that's the cost to delay benefit. Okay, what we do is we tell the customer, oh, okay, we're going to lower the price. Oh, we're going to sweeten the deal. Oh, we're going to make these changes. Oh, we're going to change the condition. And we're thinking that these are the things that are going to get them to close. But that's because we're stuck in an old paradigm. Oh, it's all about price and product and place. No, that's 70s. Okay, in today's world, it's about those individual challenges. And if you understand the individual challenges that the customer has, then you understand how they are losing money every day they're waiting to implement what you're offering. Okay, and there's something you're going to learn in the next slide that is not going to surprise you, but that is evident that we don't do enough about. So we need to understand the business of the customer, we need to understand their priorities, and we need to understand their business needs and objectives so we can say, hey, every day that you're taking to make this decision, you're losing another $1,000. or you're not realizing another $10,000 in benefits, or you're not acquiring new market share, or you're not able to deploy and track your strategy. So if we understand that, then we're going to cause an effect, and we're going to be able to overcome that, lag in motion or that lack of action that the customer takes. So what we propose is that you have tools such as playbooks. How do I compete against this particular product? How do I compete against this specific competitor? Okay, tools that guide your sales reps and provide helpful contact that can be used effectively in their customer engagement. You want to be able to provide just-in-time coaching. I see a lot of coaching after a rep says, I don't think we're going to close that deal. Guess what? That's not the time to coach. The time to coach was before you were about to lose the deal. Now you're going to have to do 10 times the effort. Okay, so you need to ensure that your reps have the guidance that they need to advance the deal. That's why when you have your opportunity reviews and you're in your CRM and you're looking at those opportunities that are stuck, you need to have the real conversation. Okay, where are we in the process? What are their priorities? How are we demonstrating the value? How are we demonstrating what they're missing out on because they're not taking action? And how are we demonstrating that the longer they take to make this decision, the more it's going to cost them? Okay, so you need collateral such as talk tracks. Talk tracks are scripts based on specific situations. Persona-based selling tips. This type of profile of customer usually responds to this kind of message. So if you're talking to the CFO, the content that you're going to feed them and the information you're going to give them is not necessarily the same as if you're talking to the VP of sales or the VP of marketing. So you have to be able to make that differentiation. And that information has to be readily accessible to your sales reps, regardless of the situation in which they're in. So again, very, very critical that we take a look at opportunity progression. The fifth element here or indicator that you need to do something about sales enablement is that your deals are closed with no official decision. I don't think you'd be surprised to know that for the most part, sales reps will give you a reason why they lost the business that is not real. Okay, as a matter of fact, studies reveal that 25 to 50% of forecasted deals end in no decision. That means they were closed because they were killed because we never heard back from the customer. They never gave us clarity. They never said what they did. They actually didn't even select a competitor, or maybe they selected a competitor and didn't even tell us about it. The Sales Benchmark Index reports that 58% of these stalled deals are lost to the status quo. You know what that means? It's easier for them to do nothing. Meaning, it's easier for them to say, stay as is, than it is for them to make that leap and acquire your product or service. That's why you have to make sure that you overcome those barriers to progression by feeding them the right content and showing and demonstrating the value of your proposition tangibly. Here's what you're missing out on. Here's what you're losing. Here's what you're not earning. But it has to be both qualitative and quantitative. And the sales enablement solution to this is to override the status quo. Preparing your people to be able to override the status quo. It's no longer about just teaching them how to sell. It's about teaching them how to break the status quo in the sales process. And the best way to do that is to demonstrate value. B2B buyers look for partners who understand their business and pain points. And sales teams that are able to challenge and engage prospects that are stuck in that status quo are 2 times as likely to reach their quotas. Okay, so what we do is we recommend as a sales enablement organization that you have the right business cases, that you help your reps engage prospects with relevant, value-add collateral that can truly advance the deal. So when you're looking at the content that you're going to be giving them, you're going to be saying, will this break the status quo? Will this trigger action on behalf of the customer? You see, that's a completely different prism to what we're used to. But that's what it's going to take for you to get to the next level and drive the organization that you want. The sixth indicator is that you're not using your marketing content. So whether it's unused altogether or underused, it's important that you take a deep look at that. An IDC survey found that 90% of marketing content and resources are never used. Look at that, 90% is never used. And 88% of the missed opportunities, meaning deals that were lost, were impacted by sales not having access to relevant internal resources. And if to that you combine the fact that sales reps spend up to 30% of their time looking for or creating content to share with prospects, you'll understand why your marketing content needs to be relevant, one, and needs to be used, two. So make sure that you have a marketing organization that understands their role, that is doing the research, that understands buyer personas, that understand what the market demands, that understand what your customers are looking for, and that understands that the content that you provide has to be able to break the status quo. Think about it. When 95% of business-to-business deals are influenced by content, the reps need to know what content to use and when. So as a sales enablement organization, you want to be able to provide real-time data, okay, that helps your salespeople determine what content is most effective at the particular stage in which they are. Because another mistake they make is they look for all the information that they can find and they drop it on the customer at once. A, the customer's not going to read it because it's overflow, it's overdone. B, they're not going to see where the relevance is. Okay, and C, you're throwing all your good shots at the beginning. So you'll end up with nothing to throw when you really need it. Okay, so you need to be able to build content that you know is going to break the status quo, that is used at the right time, and that is highly relevant, and that your salespeople know what and when to use it. And this content has to be focused on progressing the deal, and I'm going to repeat that again, break the status quo, generating the highest return on investment, meaning that the customer sees how it pays itself back, okay, and suggesting other relevant content. This will arm your people with the right tools to use at the right time and actually help them move those opportunities forward. So marketing content, really, really important. The seventh indicator, and if you're a manager, I think you're going to relate to this completely, is that there's blurry insight into what's working and what's not. It's all about the gut. I feel like this is working. I feel like that's not working. So that's not a good thing. Okay, you want to have hard data. Studies from CIO Insights have found that making decisions without data impacts sales. It doesn't mean that it remains at the same level. It means that they're actually decreasing sales. 40% of the survey respondents indicated that limited visibility into data is actually hurting their sales performance. So as a sales enablement organization, what are you looking at? You're looking at building a data-driven sales strategy that helps you do what? Decrease cost, boost productivity, and optimize effectiveness. This is what's going to help you drive the revenue. Okay, so you have to have the right set of analytics, reports, dashboards, but not to say, oh my God, look at this beautiful dashboard. Look at how many colors, look how cute it is. It's really about what's pragmatic and what's actionable from the information that you're gathering. Okay, so organizations that use sales analytics increase quota attainment 4 times faster than non-users. And sales enablement technology today uses predictive analytics to determine how to message and who to message and when to message so that they become best practices across the organization. These are the insights that you need to enable your entire sales team to operate at a high level and to give them the information and the knowledge that they need to know what factors are going to impact their success so they can deliver that content and therefore improve that performance. Okay, so this is really, really important. Take a look at this, take a look at these 7 elements, see which ones you feel could have the greatest impact, and start looking at alternatives to provide your salespeople with the right tools. There's other potential sales enablement functions. I do want to give you a word of caution here, which is don't take more than you can handle. Sales enablement in general is a new discipline. If I look at my customers in Latin America, I would tell you only about 10 to 15% of them have sales enablement organizations as such. Of those, they have been incorporated in the last 5 years. So in general, this is new. You know, leaders and CEOs are looking at this and understanding the value, especially when they're pressed for competitive results and they're pressed for increase in sales. But you have to be careful that you don't become part of the confusion and that you get overloaded with functions in the sales enablement department. Okay, so be cognizant that there are multiple factors impacting sales performance. So make sure that your sales enablement strategy is thorough in assessing what you're going to focus on and what you're not going to focus on, so that you can define a scope that you can truly manage. You might be thrown, you know, into doing internal sales contests. You know, if you feel that's going to make an impact, then you put it within the scope and realm of sales enablement. If you don't feel it does, then you can leave it for later. You know, compensation program is often thrown in there. Performance-based bonus assessments are thrown in there. And, you know, administering your CRM and other applications is thrown in there. Like I mentioned at the beginning, recruiting, doing profiling of your candidates, all those things are thrown in there. What I'm telling you is, remember, sales enablement is not sales management. And although corporations' interfunctional boundaries are becoming more blurry every day because we are expected to be more generalists than we are specialists, especially in sales, you have to be careful that you don't take on more than you can handle. So I would encourage you to prioritize, see where you can make the most impact, and focus on those things. Make them part of your sales enablement scope at the beginning, and you can always add on as you start seeing success in your sales enablement organization. So in, you know, reviewing what we've seen or summarizing, you know, there's a lot of value to be delivered from sales enablement, from connecting your sales teams with the most relevant content for each opportunity according to a stage in the sales cycle, to enabling the sales team with the training that they need and measuring the effect that this training is having on your results is going to be, you know, of tremendous value. And I'm giving you these so that if you're one of those people, you're in the 90 percentile of our customers, you're trying to convince management that you need sales enablement, I'm giving you some of the talking points. You'll be able to provide timely alerts and communication to the sales team. So when something changes, when, you know, a governance issue changes, they're notified on a timely manner. When new content is made available, they're notified. When new products are introduced, when changes to products are introduced, they're notified. So you want to make sure that, you know, they understand this is a way for them to get the information proactively and not reactively, which is very, very powerful. You know, sales enablement empowers both managers and peers to coach reps, to guide reps, to reinforce, you know, the knowledge that they acquire, and to promote best practices. You know, it's going to give them the tools that they need to be better leaders. No question about that. And it will be providing flexible ways to present customers with the content that they need in real time. So, you know, you're going to be able to provide not just content for the sales rep to give out, but content that we know is generating results. And you're going to be able to finally apply advanced analytics to optimize content and consistently improve performance. So this is the value that is to be derived from sales enablement. We are big fans about, you know, what is happening in the marketplace. I can tell you that technology, telecommunications, those industries where more complex sales are part of the day-to-day process are acquiring it much quicker because they feel the pain also much more deeply than others do. But in general, I'll tell you that out of the 90% that don't have sales enablement, at least 50% are looking at some form of sales enablement within their organizations. So if you need help with that, you know, we're here to help, and we would be delighted to guide you in the process to building your sales enablement organization. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm getting some feedback here from Diana because she's got some background noise, so she's shooting me some information here. Oh yeah, she's reminding me, and I want to do this because it's going to help me. She's reminding me that we need to do the poll. So I'm going to ask you just to make sure that we know our audience today. How many of you are actually using sales enablement tools? And you'll see a pop-up come up in your computer. So please go ahead and select yes or no. Tell us, how many of you are using sales enablement tools or have a sales enablement organization. Please go ahead and fill that out. I'm going to give you another, 30 seconds to do that. Okay, yep, I see that everybody has responded. So having said that, I'm going to close the poll and I'm going to share the results with you. And here are the results. 67% of you, 70% of you are at some level using sales enablement tools. And 33% of you are using it and 67% of you are not. Okay, so that is very, very consistent with what I told you before. The good news is that even if you're not, you're here on this call because you're looking at sales enablement. So 100% of you are interested in sales enablement. Only 33% of you are actually doing some kind of sales enablement activity within your sales organization. So I think that's really, really important. And the final question we want to ask you, and I am getting questions, so don't worry, I'm going to answer them, is just to get a sense of which tools you're using. So if you can go ahead and choose which tools do you use for sales enablement, whether they're training, recruitment, CRM, assessment and performance, or content libraries, go ahead and fill that out so that we have a sense. Normally, most people I know, actually, I'm not going to say anything because then I'll direct your voting. So I'm going to have you fill it out. Okay, thank you guys. So now I see everybody has filled in. So I'm going to close the poll and I'm going to share the results with you. So, now mind you, of the 33% of you that are using it, what you have is 100% have CRM, and that's consistent. Remember at the beginning I said usually they start with CRM and marketing automation, and that's natural because there's very little sales enablement you can do without a CRM. So that is normally the first tool. So that's 100% consistent. 50% of you are doing training, and that's legacy. So most of you do that. And what's surprising is 50% of you are already using content libraries. So that is fantastic. Because that's, that platform for you to deliver the right content at the right time. So, I'm going to leave this out here for you to look at. If you want to take a screenshot of that, you can do it. What we want you to see is that you're not alone. There's a lot of opportunity for, sales enablement activities, initiatives, and teams to go out there and change your sales organizations. Okay, so the questions that are coming through. What kind of technology helps me reinforce sales training? Excellent question, and Alberto, I'm happy you made that question. In reality, there's an immense amount of tools, and we are not one of those companies that tell you have to use A tool or B tool, or we sell A tool or B tool. The reality is that it's going to depend on the sales training that you're doing. What we normally recommend is that you have at least a video library of key tracks for training. So, you should have a video library of how to use your CRM. You should have a video library of, governance matters, like, policy within your organization. You should probably have a video, that does role playing on, things to do and not do when you're negotiating with a customer. So having, a YouTube channel dedicated to training, that could be a very simple way of having technology that helps you reinforce sales training. There's more sophisticated tools like Axonify. I mentioned that one because we used to represent their product. We don't anymore because we focus more on the CRM and marketing automation part of the business. But the reality is that Axonify is a phenomenal tool because it does exactly what you're asking. Training reinforcement. So I took the training And then this tool every day through gamification is asking me questions to reinforce that I actually retained what I learned. And it does it in 5-minute intervals, meaning that I can dedicate 5 minutes a day and reinforce my knowledge rather than having to go out a full day into a training program. So those are examples. Now, depending on your business and what you're trying to achieve, we can definitely guide you in the right direction as to what are the right technologies for you. I know all of you have different budgets and you're different sizes and you have different priorities, but we are committed to helping you find the right tools for sales training and reinforcement. Second question, what are some other relevant sales enablement tools? So, you know, the number one tool, and you saw that in the poll, is really CRM. You need a CRM. I mean, you know, it is where you're going to be able to track your process. It is where you're going to be able to track the results of your efforts. It is where you're going to track your activities. It is where you're going to have your opportunities and your leads and all that. So I really would say there's not much you can do unless you have a CRM. Assuming you have the CRM, I like marketing automation because what is happening is that as people are generating more leads, their salespeople are not able to track all those leads. So there's a lot of stuff that's falling through the cracks. So, you know, marketing automation helps you build campaigns that track the customer through their journey, through social media, through emails, newsletters, and your website before they're actually ready to talk to you. So I love marketing automation because of that. I feel it's kind of the natural next step. Contract management is an important tool because, you know, you have these contracts out there. A lot of you are recognized on renewals. So you want to make sure you have a tool that is actually sending you, you know, reminders that contract is about to expire. You know, the ability for you to be able to build a contract in minutes instead of hours, or to build a value proposition in minutes instead of hours. PandaDoc is a phenomenal tool that does, you know, a dynamic content management. So you can take a value proposition and build it from scratch based on the very specific known needs of a customer and do it in minutes, all the way to getting the contract signed electronically. So that's another phenomenal tool. And again, I can go down the list. If you Google sales enablement tools, you're going to find thousands of them. I caution you, not all of them are sales enablement tools. What happens is that because people are looking at sales enablement, everybody's kind of categorizing themselves in that area. That's why you need real expertise of people that know how to run a sales enablement organization to guide you in this process. And of course, like I said before, we're more than happy to help you go through that journey. I get another question here from Jose. Thank you, Jose. Is there any formal / probed strategy to help sales rep to get higher sales? So that's a tricky question. So yes, but it's going to vary according to your specific situation, right? So Jose, the first thing I would say is, what exactly you know, is failing in your organization? What do you feel needs to be improved? What skills do we need to make sure that your sales reps have? And where in the sales process are they losing opportunities, and why are they losing opportunities? So if I can combine the skill sets, okay, with the where opportunities are being lost and why opportunities are being lost, I can pretty much give you a solid roadmap of what you can call a formal probed strategy to help your sales reps achieve higher sales results. And with that, you have to remember, Jose, you want to combine that with a performance management program, meaning we're going to get the coaching that they need when they need it, they're going to have access to the information that they need when they need it, and they're going to be measured for their improvement. And if they don't improve, then there's things that they're going to have to do to get up to speed, or we're going to have to replace them. Okay, so that'll help you build that formal probe strategy to help sales rep get higher results. So I hope, Jose, that's answered your question. If not, please feel free to you know, correspond through here. Okay, I see it does. All right, no, thank you, Jose, for the question. I got another question. The problem that we face in my company is high rotation, and the onboarding time is very high. Any recommendations? I love that question, Jenny. That is fantastic. So rotation is also influenced by many factors. A, do you have the right fit for your culture? Okay, if you're hiring millennials but you have a legacy culture, you're gonna have rotation. Okay, so that's number one. Are you hiring for the culture that you're building? So one, let's look at that. Number two, are you compensating them properly? Okay, that has to be looked at. Are you creating the right set of incentives? Okay, and are you treating your teams and developing them organizationally? So if you look at those four elements, okay, I am pretty sure we'll be able to tell you exactly where the rotation factors are. Okay, so those are the four key things we start with for rotation. So hire the right people for the culture. Okay, make sure, of course, they're onboarded, coached, and provided with the right tools. So that's going to be important. Make sure that you are compensating them accordingly so that they're not forced to leave somewhere else. And make sure you're developing them so that they reach, you know, the performance levels that they need and that they have realistic targets so they don't feel like this is a no-win situation no matter how hard I work. And number four, you know, develop the organizational development programs that they need to grow within your organization. So you do that, you're going to be in great shape for rotation. The second question, or the second part to your question, was your onboarding time. Onboarding is tricky because that's going to depend on the complexity of your product. It's going to depend on the complexity of your pricing process, and it's going to depend on the complexity of your buyer. But if we understand those three elements, we're able to build programs and provide you with the assessment that you need to have the tools that you need to accelerate that onboarding process and give you that 30% to 40% gain in the time that you actually take to complete an onboarding process. So I hope that helps. Yeah, I see Jenny writes, thank you very much. I don't see any other questions. We are within 2 minutes of our time, so I'm not going to take more of your time. I do want to thank all of you for joining us today. We are really, really happy that you've decided to take an hour of your day to spend it with us. We encourage you to please continue to let us know topics that you want us to cover. I do want to share that we have some special promotions for customers that want to implement CRM. We also have great plans for customers that already have the CRM but want to optimize it. We also have a summer promotion for training. So if you have people that haven't trained, we have something going on for you guys. And we have a special promotion with PandaDoc Sales Enablement. So, you know, if there's any of these things that you guys are interested in, please let us know. Continue to reach out to us or different social media channels or by email, and we will be happy to answer and, of course, include your topics in our next webinars. So again, thank you and have a great rest of your day, afternoon, or evening, depending on your time zone. I saw that today we got people from pretty far, so we're grateful for you being here. So you all have a great day, and thanks again for your participation today. It's been very valuable.